James stood frozen, staring at the clock on the hospital wall. His father, a man who had worked tirelessly to give James every opportunity, now lay frail and silent, tethered to machines that ticked like a cruel countdown. There were so many things James had wanted to say, so many some days they had postponed. His father had always told him, "James, life waits for no one. Don't just exist, son. Live." But James had always nodded, smiling politely, dismissing the urgency of the message. Time had betrayed them, and now those words were all he had left. That night, driving home through a torrential downpour, James replayed his father's life advice over and over in his head. At an intersection, his car stalled. Frustrated, he slammed the steering wheel. That's when he noticed something extraordinary. Across the street, through the rain-drenched glass, an old bookstore glowed mysteriously, its lights piercing through the darkness. It was midnight. It hardly made sense for a bookstore to be open, but a strange pull beckoned him inside. The moment James stepped in, the bell above the door chimed softly, and the faint scent of old paper enveloped him. He wasn't alone. Behind the counter stood an elderly man with piercing blue eyes and an enigmatic grin. "What are you looking for, son?" the man asked, his voice calm and otherworldly. James, still numb from the night's events, murmured, "I don't know. Maybe a sign, maybe purpose." The man handed James a dusty leather-bound book with no title. "This," he said, "is your story, but it hasn't been written yet." James opened it and froze. The pages were blank, completely blank. He looked up, confused, but the man just smiled knowingly. "What are you waiting for? The pen, as always, is in your hands," he whispered before vanishing into thin air. James stumbled out of the bookstore, clutching the odd book, only to find his car working again as if by magic. Back home in his dimly lit apartment, he placed the book on his desk. It sat there for days, mocking him, reminding him of everything he hadn't done. Until one morning, fueled by caffeine and a restless night, James picked up a pen and wrote the words, "This is the day everything changes." Over the next few months, James did what he never thought possible. He didn't just dream, he acted. He dusted off his guitar, began strumming melodies into the early hours, and posted his music online. To his surprise, strangers resonated with the raw honesty of his songs. He dug through his journals, piecing together the fragments of his unfinished stories, and sent them to publishers. While most were rejected, one short story found its home in a small literary magazine. For the first time, James tasted what it felt like to truly live. On weekends, he traveled to nearby towns, photographing sunrises and aged oak trees, finding beauty in places he had overlooked his entire life. But it wasn't just about the pursuits. It was about his mindset. When fear whispered tales of failure, James roared back with action. He learned that the only way to silence self-doubt was to take that terrifying first step. And then another, and one more after that. On the one-year anniversary of his father's passing, James stood in a local art gallery, his photographs lining the walls, his guitar resting on a stool ready for his performance. The turnout was modest, but meaningful. Strangers, friends, even the editor who published his story. As he strummed the first chord, James felt his heart swell, not with pride, but with gratitude. He had made a choice, and it had saved his life. James's journey teaches one profound truth. It's never too late to begin. The weight of regret may press on us, but it's lighter than the weight of possibilities left unexplored. We can't rewrite the past, but we can pick up the pen today and write a future that burns brightly with purpose, passion, and courage. So, I ask you, what blank page in your life is waiting for you to take the first step? Pick up the pen. Start today. The world is waiting for your story.